Hey everybody, it's Xhico. I'm here today to talk about using repeat patterns in Adobe Illustrator and specifically about working with swatches and rescaling the swatch or recolorizing that swatch if necessary for an asset for a project. So let's say my client comes to me and they say, hey, we're working with this repeat pattern. It's a simple polka dot, but we need to use it across all our assets for packaging, for advertising, for web design, for an app. And so that means it's going to need to be rescaled and sometimes recolored to make it more useful. So over here, let's talk about the basics first, is we have our swatch panel. And above in our color, we have our fill and our stroke. And over on our left-hand toolbar, you'll also see that we have our fill and our stroke. And you can use both of these work for the same object. So you can see right here on my artboard, I have a rectangle, and that rectangle is filled. You can see it's indicated over here in my fill and up here in my fill. That rectangle is filled with this swatch. It is also indicated here in the swatch box. So there are lots of places to see your fill and your stroke. So our rectangle is filled with this swatch. This swatch is a repeat pattern, and that means that Adobe Illustrator will use this information in this swatch to create a pattern that repeats infinitely. So if you design it right, it will also be seamless. So this polka dot is a seamless infinite pattern, and you can see it repeats forever. And that's all from this little information in this box. Also in the swatch box, you'll see that we have all the colors of our pattern that we're using here. So let's say we need to create some website assets. And we need those at different dimensions. So let's say we need a website banner at 800 pixels by 300 pixels. I'm going to go over here to my rectangle tool. I'm going to go over here and click once. That's going to give me a little rectangle window to specify my width and my height. So first I'm going to enter 800 pixels. I enter 800 and my document is in inches, so make sure you type px and that will automatically convert it to inches. And I'm going to go 300 px and that automatically will convert to inches when I click OK. And here is our new box size. So because I'm going to know that I'm going to export this for the web, I want to make sure that I put this on an artboard, which is basically like a page in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to go over here to my layers. You can see this is the layer that we're working on. The eye indicates that it's visible, and the blue highlight indicates that's the layer that we're on. So I'm going to click my box, make sure it's highlighted with the blue square around it. I'm going to go Command C, which is copy. If you go up to Edit, you could see that we have copy, and over here on the left, Command C is the keyboard command. We have paste, Command V is a keyboard command. We have paste in front, Command F is the keyboard command. Paste in back, Command B is the keyboard command. So those are the copy and paste that I use the most. So what we've just done is we go Command C for copy. Now what I'm going to do is go down here and I'm going to create a new layer with the plus sign in the layers panel. And I'm going to drag that layer down below. I think I accidentally created two new layers. I'm going to drag that layer down below and I'm going to label that artboards. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the layer that we were working on, patterns. And I'm going to make sure that artboards is highlighted blue because that's the layer that I want to now paste the new board to. So I'm going to go Command F, which is paste in front. And you could see it's pasted exactly in the same place. If I go over here to my layers panel and I click the eye, I can hide that. And you can see it's hidden this art over here because they're all on the same layer. And it hid the layer in front. To illustrate that better, let me show you the layer again. I'm going to unlock that layer. I'm going to color this box on top green. Now, when I hide that layer, you can see that layer goes away, and the box that I pasted in the exact same place is now on the layer below on artboards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that box. I don't want to move it, and I'm now going to press Command 9. That has now created that shape into an artboard, which is basically like a page in Adobe Illustrator. I can now lock that because I don't need to mess with it anymore, and I'm going to turn back on my pattern layer. Now I have my pattern layer on, and this is my 800 by 300 banner that I need to make, and I'm going to fill it again by clicking swatch over here with the polka dots. So here's our swatch size that it comes in as. That is 100% of the size that the swatch was made in Illustrator. So let's say you need to scale this and make it a little bit bigger. There's a couple ways to do it. I'm going to turn on this layer here that I've already designed for you called tilde, because nobody knows what this key is. This little shape, the squiggle, is called a tilde. That's usually seen above a ñ in Spanish alphabet. And this key is very important for working with patterns. And I'm going to use this bigger artboard over here to illustrate why. I'm going to click this to hide my layers. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a few things here. So when I click my artboard, where it's now selected, we see we have a center point. It's important to pay attention to your center point when you're scaling your patterns. So my pattern's a swatch in here, and it's filled. So I can scale it, and it will always keep this boundary where I've indicated it. And the way to do that is go over here to scale, your scale tool, click your scale tool. And now what I'm going to do first is up in my upper left-hand corner, I'm going to click this tilde key and hold that down before I do anything. Now I want to scale this up. So I want to go directional from the center outwards. And I usually drag in a diagonal, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. So right now I'm holding the tilde key down all the way, and you keep it held down. If I click and I start dragging, right now I'm dragging upwards. You can see it scaling it vertically. Now I'm going to go back, and if I click and drag it outwards, you can see it scaling it horizontally. If I want it to scale perfectly, I'm going to hold Shift key, which keeps it in proportion. So now I have the tilde and the Shift key held at the same time, and I'm going to scale that by moving it diagonally from the center to the corner. And I can keep going until I reach my limit. So you get that, and you can see that you can scale it down and up. And that's why you want to work from, you can see it's kind of doing things in different ways. If you find a point to start at in the center and work outward toward the corner, that will help you scaling it when you're holding the tilde and the Shift key. So that's one way to scale. The other way to scale is go to your scale tool, double click, and you'll see you have uniform scale, which means it's kept in proportion, which is what I usually always use. And over here, you see the option, and you see transform object and transform patterns. So we don't want object selected. The object is this rectangle, this boundary. We just want to transform what's in it. So let's say I want to transform it exactly 200% bigger than what it was originally designed. So I'm going to enter 200, and I'm going to click OK. Well, if I click Tab, it will show me the preview. So it went a little smaller because we had it at 218. Now I'm going to click OK. And so now it's at 200. So let's say, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want at my banner. I needed a bigger dot. So what I would go to do here is go here and double click this. It's already set to 200 because that's what we just did. Make sure transform objects is deselected, transform patterns is selected, and click OK. All right, so now we can go and we can go to File, Export, Export As. Use Artboards is checked. We want Range 2 because that's the page. And we're going to go to JPEG for our file type. And then here you can type in your title and specify where you want to put it and click Export. Now, the important thing is for web, you're going to use RGB. Your quality, do maximum as possible. For web, our resolution here is you go to Screen, 72 ppi, pixels per inch. And anti-aliasing, you always want to make sure it's art optimized, super sampling, and check embed ICC profile. That's a color profile. And you're going to click OK. And that has now made us a JPEG file. So we're not going to go look at that JPEG right now because it's just a simple JPEG that looks identical to this. We're going to keep moving on. The next thing is, what if I need to give somebody else this pattern at this size and I need to recreate this swatch at 200% or whatever it is specified? Maybe it's a weird size, like 274%, and it needs to be a weird size. Well, I can recreate this swatch, and here's how. Here's the swatch over here, and I can pull this out, and this is going to show me the actual master vectors that it was designed with. So here we are. This is the original palette of the swatch. And the important thing to understand about this is at the boundary of this swatch, we have two boxes. Now, if I click this one, the pink one that you can actually see here, I'm going to just click it once and delete it. Oops, sorry, it's grouped. Let me ungroup it. Now I'm going to click once and I'm going to delete it. Now if I drag, you can't see it, but if I drag, there's another box here. This is what's really important. This invisible box is your bounding box. This is what keeps your tile repeating infinitely. And you can see that this box is not filled or stroked with anything. That's why you can't see it. But it must always be at the back of your pattern. And that's the only way you can make a pattern in Illustrator, is to have that box at the back. So now let me go back and undo that here. So here's our pattern. And let's say we need it to repeat at 200%. All I'm going to do is click this and go to my scale tool. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to click uniform 200%, transform objects this time because I want the whole thing to get bigger. So I did that. I go OK. Now I'm going to drag all of this stuff together into my swatch panel. And now I have a swatch that's designed at 200% the size. So let me draw two boxes very quick to illustrate this. All right. So here we're going to our first panel. This is how we got the swatch, and it's 100%. And here's the new one we made, 200%. So now we have a new swatch scaled at a different size. Now let's say we want to recolor that swatch. Let's go over here to this artwork. Now, first thing I'm going to do is, let's say I just want to make a simple tone on tone, maybe a blue on blue for this case. So I'm going to go in here to my artwork, and I'm going to drag and select everything. So everything's selected. Well, right now, what I'm going to do is, because I know that there's two boxes here, I'm just going to drag over just the edge of that and hold the Shift key. And that's going to, when I let go, it's going to unselect those. Now only my dots are selected. The two boxes in the background are not selected. I'm going to group my dots just to make this a little easier. I'm going to go to Group under Object. And I'm going to go and I'm going to color all the dots the same color. Let's say we're going to make them a blue because we want to do a tone on tone. All right. And now I'm going to simply click on this box here. I'm going to click another blue. There we go. We got a nice tone on tone. Now I'm going to drag this with the, remember that background box is still back there, over into my swatch panel. Now let's look at the tone on tone version. We're going to click this, click tone on tone, and there we go. We have a beautiful pattern. Now if I click this, it will still repeat because we scaled that one, is why it looks bigger. I could draw this. Now we have a beautiful repeat tone on tone pattern. And same thing, now you can go to your asset here, fill it with this color, and go to export, and it will export. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned a thing or two. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. Thanks and have a great day.